The original Star Wars trilogy of films were amazing. Not only did they break records and stand the test of time as great pieces of art, they changed how people would make and view science fantasy films for years to come. Truly, Star Wars was the pinnacle of science fantasy stories, and would take nothing short of a perfect film to knock them from the top. Or this. Okay, so then Jar Jar says, "Uh-oh, big aboomas." But maybe he shouldn't say that? And maybe we should make this movie less dumb and boring and more coherent. What did you say to me, you little prick? The prequels sucked big time. George Lucas's head was enormous from the original trilogy, and with the original success, no one was brave enough to tell him no. Thankfully, Disney bought Star Wars in 2012, and it went a little something like this. Okay guys, we need to come up with a solid plan. The prequels sucked, and we need
I'm a smarty pants.
Okay? But seriously, we need to make sure we come up with a solid plan this time. The prequels were terrible, and we need to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes again, so...
I'm a smarty pants.
Oh my god! There's fire everywhere! I'll have to put it out with this bucket of gasoline. Yeah. The sequels ended up being just as much as a dumpster fire as the prequels. Arguably even more so. With this, it was clear. Star Wars was just not the film franchise it used to be. Rogue One was pretty good, and Solo was enjoyable enough. But at this point, a lot of people had lost faith in the franchise, and some others were done with Star Wars altogether. It was clear that Disney had lost a lot of trust from a sizable portion of Star Wars fans, which led to the complicated place Star Wars is in right now in Disney+. Star Wars overall seems kind of lost right now. Episode 9 came out in 2019, and we have no idea what the next Star Wars film will be or when it will come out. So at the moment, Disney is just throwing a bunch of different shows at the wall to help stall while they figure out what to do with the films. But what I want to talk about is, are the Disney Plus shows good, and how are they affecting Star Wars as a whole? Well, like most things with Star Wars, it's complicated. I do have to congratulate Disney on starting out extremely strong. The Mandalorian Season 1 and the final season of The Clone Wars were extremely good. They both did a great job of satisfying the current fans, while also bringing back old fans who had lost faith in the franchise. Then, a little while after that, The Bad Batch dropped, which I personally really enjoyed. Most Clone Wars and Rebels fans know that these types of shows really hit their stride around Season 3, and The Bad Batch already started on the same quality level as the second season of Clone Wars, so I am very hopeful for Season 2. Then, The Mandalorian Season 2 dropped, which like the first season set the internet on fire, and delivered a great experience with an amazing ending. Star Wars was once again back on top, baby. But then things started to drop in quality. After The Mandalorian Season 2 dropped, the Book of Boba Fett came out. And you gotta understand, I loved Boba Fett. For the longest time, he was my favorite Star Wars character, and the Book of Boba Fett was my most anticipated Star Wars project of all time. And after its release, I gotta say, it was fine, I guess. It has quite a few problems, but there was enough cool stuff in it to keep my interest until the end. Its biggest problems were that there was not enough happening in a lot of the episodes, and Boba Fett was missing for a good amount of them too, but both of these issues are reduced when you watch on a binge, instead of waiting 1 week between episodes. Though I was a little disappointed with the end result, I still think the show was fine enough, and the overall reception, while negative, was not too negative. Then Kenobi came out. I never cared all that much about Kenobi. I liked him in A New Hope, but I was much more interested in most of the other characters in that film. And Ewan McGregor as Kenobi was the best part of the prequels, but he was never more than a funny meme man to me. So I was definitely not as frustrated with the show as a lot of people were. But to understand the impact of the show on Star Wars as a whole, my opinion doesn't really matter all that much. And the general opinion is much more important. And once again, the Star Wars fandom was split. A lot of people really cared about Kenobi as a character, and the way they handled him was very controversial, which led to a bunch of fans losing hope in Star Wars, again. And this leads to now. Andor has been released, and I want to hold judgment on it until the series is over, but I have been extremely enjoying it so far. And if they don't screw up the ending, we might just have some of the best Star Wars since the original trilogy. So in conclusion, Star Wars is in a really weird place right now. You have a bunch of different shows coming out relatively quick, all with wildly different levels of quality and polish. You might get a show that splits the fandom in half, and then get a show that is widely loved. You might get a series that is so emotional, people are brought to tears. And then get something that's, just mid. So what does the future of Star Wars look like? How the heck should I know?